Hey guys, Art Decline here, Average Picker. So I've got some videos I'm kind of lining up to do these next few days, and I'm sort of running them in a reverse order. But as you can see, we are down here on the floor of the workshop, let's say. And this back room is kind of where I just sit and do a lot of the stuff as far as like challenge lock making and everything. And I'm trying to double down my efforts. I can get kind of lazy about it and do some more challenge lock stuff. But since I put out a video a while back saying there was not enough documentation and stuff on building, there wasn't enough videos about builds, I figured, I should put my money where my mouth is and get to doing more videos about building challenge locks. Also, on a side note, if you see all this crap lined up, man, forget trying to pick a lock. You want a real challenge? Try to get a best peek out of the door handle. Oh my gosh, these things get so far, and some of them are turning into an absolute nightmare. But anyway, so yeah, I just thought I'd go over. I've kind of refined my process a little bit, and so I've laid out the majority of the bits and tools that I use in doing and making pins and whatnot. And so I thought I would just do another little video on that. I've covered it before, but just to take another look at it. So let's flip the camera and look at what's going on here. Okay, so I kind of laid out, some of the tools are actually more scattered, but I laid out the basics here of what I use. And so, of course, we've got our Dremel. I went out, I had a chuck failure, but I went out and I purchased another chuck because, frankly, this is just one of the easiest ways to get pins in and out of here. I experimented some. I know some of you guys seem to be able to use these Colettes to hold the pins. Honestly, I just couldn't get any to hold the pins that snugly, so I just went out and bought another chuck for it. And it's gonna break, but whatever. I'm not using this anymore though for any serious work, like especially the cutting and stuff. I was just finding the speeds it has to spin at weren't all that great for what that chuck can do. And you can see, so there's the Dremel. It goes all the way up to 35 in theory, but mine makes a lot of weird noises in this 30 to 35-ish range. It does not enjoy it, so I don't run this thing any much higher than probably right about there now. But for shaping pins, you're really pretty much looking at the 10 to 15,000 range there. So when I originally started, I had purchased a cheap set of these jewelry files. That's all these are. These are just cheap jewelry files, and they worked fine, but they do take a lot more time than you kind of anticipate. I would say you're probably looking at about 10 minutes per pin, maybe using these to do the entire shaping. So I purchased another cheap set of files, and you can pick these up pretty much anywhere. I got these, I think, at Lowe's. They were less than $10, so it wasn't too bad. And you can see on some of them they're showing some wear and things. Now, and somebody just spotted that, so I'll go ahead and highlight that little spot there and up in there. So with files, yeah, there is a direction that files like to run in. You really don't want to get a file and just do it back and forth. You tend to just kind of do that is more of the motion you want to make. No. Okay, so if you think you're looking at a weird cut, that's because there is. I had a very important phone call come in, and I may talk a little bit about that later. But anyway, so yeah, files, they do have a direction they want to run. There's been some other people who've done videos on this. You don't want to just sit and kind of saw with the file. The jewelry files, not so much the case. You can run these back and forth, and you're pretty much okay doing that. It's not going to really tear them up any more than ever. But I think there's a case for having just some cheap files that you don't care about, or that you just say, well, if they get messed up, they get messed up. So what I discovered with these is, though, these make the cuts much deeper, much quicker than the jewelry files do. So I'll often use these to start the shaping. So while this is spinning, I just kind of give it a good little pass through. Now these are chewed up a little bit. I would say with the pins, that's kind of your working end. You're not going to really have to get too down on the file. And what I sort of did on some of these is because, like, this one's, we've got 3 sides to it. And so for a while, what I was doing was I was just declaring, you know what, if I'm going to saw back and forth, like I shouldn't, I'm going to dedicate that to one side of that, of those 3 sides. And so that's kind of why you're seeing it a little uneven. For a while, I was keeping track of which side I was abusing a little bit more than the others, and then I just reached a point where I stopped caring. But let's see, if we pull 2 of these up, so I mean these are pretty similar shape, but I can show you what's going on here. So we're going to spin the Dremel up, so noise warning. I'm going to try to do this one low. I don't know if you can see, it is sort of just doing it. So it takes a while. All right. Where on the other hand, just a couple passes with that shapes it very, very quickly. However, this, if you really get in and started looking at this, it is a very rough cut. So I do still tend to come in with the jewelry file and just kind of hit the pin to smooth it out. And the other thing I do is I have some 600 grit. Well, it says 600. This thing is long past 600. This thing's riding closer to like a 1200 grit at this point. But I do use some sandpaper every now and then. You kind of just wrap it in there a little bit. Just to take a bit of the edge off the pin a little bit. So yeah, those are, I guess, the primary tools I'm using now. The jewelry files, and I'm using those as more of a kind of a finishing and fine tuning. And then I'm using these guys just to do the rough initial cuts. Now there's some other things you end up with. So when you have a Dremel and you do anything, you know, you have these Dremel cutting discs, but they wear down eventually, and they wear down to something like that. I kind of hate throwing things away. This is not really much good for cutting anymore. But you can still shape a pin with that. That is still a rough edge. And, oh, I took the pin out. But you can spin the pin and just kind of come in and tap it off with that. Similarly, this is just another broken basic cutting disc, but that still works fine for coming in and just doing a little bit of edge work with. So I just hang on to those little bits. I've even discovered, I mean, the pins are softer than the stainless steel, so I even hang on to a stainless steel bit sometimes that I'll use to grind in with. And of course, everybody's favorite, the box cutter blade. This one has, you can see, seen much better days. Let's see if I got anything else. Oh yeah, so even these little guys, and you probably have some of these from your Dremel kit, when they get a little worn out, I don't really fully retire them because they are still okay and they will still make some interesting cuts sometimes. Let's see if I can get this in here real quick. And okay, so we're going to spin the Dremel up again. Now this is not a finished pin by any means, but you can see it gets in there, and you can do a little bit of work with it, and a little bit of shape. Just start to figure out how these come out. They'll play out on the pins a little differently. Get you some different shapes and stuff. So yeah, that's just kind of a look at the bits and pieces that I guess I keep hanging around for when I do this. I do like a polished pin now. Sometimes I try to leave them rough, but so I keep some of these bits around and the sandpaper and things just to finish and smooth them off a little more if the jewelry files haven't quite done it. So yeah, there we go. just a brief look, like I said, at some of the stuff using for doing this shaping. Okay, so one of the other things I keep on hand are just a few junk cores, and you kind of need these less and less, I guess, as you get more and more experienced. But I keep a few of these around. These are for purposes of just seeing what's going to happen in trying to do some modifications to the core. So you can see I was kind of playing with some just beveling out and some channeling and how the different, I think this one hole was actually caused by this thing, where I was going in with it like that, spinning, and just seeing what I could expect, playing with the speeds, to, making sure it wasn't going to just all of a sudden catch, hang up, and try to fly out of the Dremel. Yeah, so I keep some of these cores on hand just for screwing around with and seeing how easy or difficult or something may be. This one was kind of recent because I'm experimenting with cutting one of these in half. You can see it's quite chewed up out there. That was a whole other idea I was kind of wondering about, and I started chewing up the outside of the lock to see how feasible it might be. But yeah, this is a partial experiment in splitting one of these horizontally. It seemed like a good candidate since the chambers were already pretty much all cut out. So yeah, that's the other thing I do is I keep these around just to experiment with how the different bits are going to cut or not easily cut, or are they going to produce the results that I'm kind of hoping for. So it's just something to practice on. And of course, now I have added the good old box. All the junk locks I have actually do not fit in this box, but this gives me something. Kind of tilt the camera around there a little bit so you can see it. This just gives me something to kind of practice on, or not practice on, but just to organize in and say, okay, these are the ones I'm going to start getting done, and I really do need to start dumping more challenge locks out there in the community. I think watching some of you guys where you've just put a ton out there, I realize every single one does not have to be my best possible work at that one time. I can just kind of crank one out and let it be what it is. It's, I don't have to put full 100% effort. Not to say that I want to just dump some crappy locks out there or anything like that. But yeah, I think I was just initially thinking every lock had to just be, incredible, or not. I was producing incredible locks, but you know what I mean. I think it's more important that I just get some more out there moving around for people to pick and to be able to trade and swap off with. So like some of you guys like Bear's Back, it's in the process. I'm gonna get some stuff to you, plus I've got some of the other things to get to you. So yeah, you want locks, you got to make some locks too, so we got to get these circulating. Anyway, just a quick little brief look. I will probably do, that's kind of boring to see. I'll probably do a little more documentation on some of these builds and things later. But thought, you know what, I should just put up and shut up if I'm saying there needs to be more build videos, and I should make some myself. So there we go, guys. All right, you have a good one.